Good evening, everyone. This is Dr. Christina Testabuzzi. I'm Commissioner and Chair of the Commission on Gender Equity for the City of Norwalk, and here with some wonderful and amazing colleagues that are commissioners. I'm going to call to order at 7:02 p.m. And we do have a guest, Lieutenant Governor Bysowitz has joined us. She will be addressing the commission a little bit later. So I'd like to welcome her. And first call of business, as I look at my other screen, is just a roll call. I'm just double checking. I can see who is on, but just for formality, Sharon is here for the records or for the note taking. Chantel is not here at this moment. Joy Dieger is here. Emma Dignati is here. Shannon O'Toole Jindirko, I hope I said that right, is here. Jasmine Prezi emailed that she would be absent this evening. She had a conflict. Kim Squires, our newest commission member. Thank you and welcome for joining. And Yvonne Zuko as well as joining us. And just for a record, Yvonne and Shannon are our co-chairs. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Now just do the acceptance of the minutes from, we did not have a May meeting. So from our April 14th meeting, April 14th, 2025, is there a motion to accept the minutes and then we can discuss?
So moved.
Moved by Shannon, seconded by Emma. I do have one note for record. If you could, I'd appreciate if we could actually use Dr. Testabuzzi. So that would be appreciative in the minutes. Any other notes, comments, edits, changes to the minutes?
I'm going to raise my hand.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Thank you, Sharon. If you guys can use the icon just so that I don't miss you.
Sure. I just would like to add, I know we had technical difficulties at the beginning of it. Ms. Hill also had talked about SB 1438, an act prohibiting female genital mutilation. I wanted to add that. And also just HB 6078, an act concerning the availability of emergency contraception on the campuses of institutions of higher education.
Thank you, Sharon.
Yep, I just have one more too. Page 5, first sentence. If you can add at the very end of that, and programs offered. Because I wanted to make sure they give us data by gender for sports participants, but also by the programs offered. And that's all my notes.
Thank you, Sharon. Any other comments? We appreciate the attention to correct name spelling. We've addressed that in the past, so just for the formal record. Seeing no more questions, all those in favor of accepting the minutes as amended, raise your hand. All those opposed? All those abstaining? So unanimous, I was going to say opposition. Acceptance of, it's a Monday night, universal acceptance of the minutes. Thank you. So now we do turn our meeting over. I'm going to ask Michelle Wood-Matthews to lead the upcoming public participation. If there is anyone, is there anyone in the waiting room, Michelle?
Good evening, everyone. No, and good evening, Lieutenant Governor Bysowitz. So good to see you. Nope, I think the only person is a staffer of the Lieutenant Governor. So no one else.
Okay. The teacher in me is going to give the 15-second roll, but if they're not here, they're not here. So. All right, let the record show there's no public participation for the meeting this evening. So we will move right on into our agenda. And I'm going to actually introduce Commissioner Emma Dignati, who with Sharon Benante and Yvonne Zuko are on the Legislative Advocacy Committee. And they've done a stand-up job this year in bringing us guest speakers, in addition to Melvette Hill with the executive director last meeting, so that we really are getting a large perspective on what is going on. And I think after tonight, then the next step is what are we going to do with all this amazing information and updates. But Emma, I appreciate your diligence in the invitation of Lieutenant Governor, and will allow you to introduce her.
Absolutely. So welcome, Lieutenant Governor Bysowitz. We're so honored to have you join us tonight. I'll give a brief overview of the Lieutenant Governor, and then I'll just turn it over to her. So Lieutenant Governor Bysowitz was sworn in on January 4th, 2023. She's serving her second term as Connecticut's 109th Lieutenant Governor. She is a graduate of Yale University, where she received her Bachelor of Arts degree, and she's also an attorney, and she received her Juris Doctor from Duke University School of Law. Prior to her role as the Lieutenant Governor, she's no stranger to state politics. She served in the Connecticut House of Representatives for 6 years, and she also served as our Secretary of the State for about 12 years. She is also a business lawyer and she's a job creator. She's helped over 60 companies access millions of dollars in capital, and she's created thousands of jobs in Connecticut. She works with our governor, Ned Lamont, to champion women's health, education, and fair elections. On her website, she champions herself as an advocate and a voice for women and girls, as well as small business owners, veterans, and many others throughout Connecticut. And we came across her work specifically on the Legislative Advocacy Committee because she's also a member of the Reproductive Freedom Alliance, which is a nonpartisan coalition of 23 governors that's committed to protecting and expanding reproductive freedoms. The alliance supports governors and their staff to advance proactive strategies to strengthen reproductive rights and access across the various states that are members of the alliance. So now I'll turn it over to the Lieutenant Governor to give her legislative updates, anything she might like to share, as well as anything related to her work for the Reproductive Freedom Alliance. And then I think we'll turn it over to the commissioners to ask questions, and Dr. Testabuzzi is going to facilitate the Q&A. So welcome, Lieutenant Governor. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you so much for having me. The female genital mutilation bill was just mentioned. I was hoping Connecticut would finally join the vast majority of the states that have adopted that law. It's very upsetting to me that Connecticut would be a state that has not yet passed that law, but that is the case. And sadly, it makes us a destination state. And we are a state where there are 2,500 women and girls that are at risk right now. So I'm so sorry that that did not get over the finish line. We were able to ban child marriage in Connecticut, once we pointed out how many other states around us and in the country had already passed such a law. So that's put that on the list for next year, and count on our office to support that. I wanted to give a little bit of a summary of legislation that's passed on the reproductive rights front in 2022. Literally just before Dobbs overturned Roe versus Wade, Connecticut passed the Reproductive Freedom Defense Act, which was a first in the nation law to give important protections to medical providers in Connecticut so that they could take care of patients coming from other states outside of Connecticut to receive abortion care. It also allowed advanced practice clinicians like registered nurses, APRNs, and nurse midwives and physician's assistants to receive training to provide abortion care. And we've actually seen, since a third of the states have passed restrictions and bans on abortion, Connecticut has indeed seen an uptick in people coming to Connecticut from states that have restrictive laws or bans to receive care. And this year, the state legislature has passed a law creating a fund that will be administered in the treasurer's office to assist women as they are accessing care from out of state. And the good news is that this law not only protects the abortion providers in Connecticut who give this critical care, but also provides protections against disclosing medical information about abortions without a patient's consent. We followed that law in 2023 with a law to allow pharmacists to prescribe certain types of birth control, and to also ensure that care for this type of health care, either morning after pill or abortion care, would be available from pharmacists. And when I say abortion care, I mean having access to abortion medication, because most abortions are performed with using drugs like mifepristone. And so we were able to get that law passed. Connecticut joined 20 other states to allow pharmacists to provide that type of care. And Connecticut joined more than 20 other states that already do this. And the importance is this, that even though we are a very wealthy state, we have rural areas of our state, or states where there is a healthcare desert. And so most people live within a few miles of a pharmacy. So this literally expands access, because people don't have to make appointments with doctors, which often can take weeks or months. And pharmacists are trusted people in the community. So we followed that up with a press conference in January of this year, where the governor and I did a press conference with the UConn School of Pharmacy to launch the first ever vending machines in the state that provide access to Plan B and other over-the-counter medications from vending machines. And the Consumer Protection Department in our state has approved an optional continuing education course developed by the UConn School of Pharmacy that will allow pharmacists to start prescribing birth control pursuant to the law that I just mentioned. And I have also joined, when I think you mentioned this at the beginning in my introduction, both the governor and I have each joined coalitions of our respective colleagues. The governor with the the Governors Association. I don't know of any Republicans that have joined that coalition. And I have led on this issue, getting other colleagues who are lieutenant governors from 22 states and territories to join me in a coalition to protect reproductive freedoms. And we did this in the aftermath of Roe versus Wade being overturned. Also, we were able to pass this year a bill which gives minors the right to receive contraception and prenatal care without the consent of their parents. So these are just some of the things that were passed either in past sessions or this session. There was also a constitutional amendment that combined a proposal that combined both reproductive freedom, a stronger Roe constitutional right, and a LGBTQ plus provision to ensure that both reproductive rights and gender affirming care would be available to people in Connecticut and would be protected under our state constitution, equality clause. However, equal protection clause. However, the problem is this. The problem is that unfortunately, that constitutional amendment question didn't go to either chamber of the legislature for a vote. So unfortunately, I can't report to you that it will be on the ballot, but it did receive more than 2,000 pieces of testimony in favor of it. And this bill to change our constitution was modeled after New York's law. So that also, when you combine the law against female genital mutilation and cutting, those two things were disappointments that didn't make it over the finish line. So we'll need to add that to the list to pursue next year. But that is the summary I have for you, and be happy to answer any questions that any of your commissioners might have.
Sharon?
Well, sure, I'll go first, right? Thank you, Lieutenant Governor Bysiewicz. We really appreciate you coming here, and I always see you championing women and marginalized genders. So I just want to say thank you. I see you. It is much appreciated. My question for you is, as you work with these other 23 governors or 22 governors, is there any other legislation that you're seeing that they're doing that perhaps you would like to bring to Connecticut as it relates to gender equity?
So the coalition that I am part of is on the reproductive freedom front, and reproductive rights, I think, is an area where Connecticut is leading. So thus far, I think we've been providing more examples than we have gotten, although I would say that we're a little behind when it comes to the LGBTQ plus rights, because I'd love to see that piece put in our constitution. And once that would be passed by our state legislature, then it could go to a vote to the voters. And I think the good news is whenever reproductive rights are on the ballot, they always win. Like, it doesn't matter if it's a blue state, a red state, or a purple state. We have seen that those initiatives have been successful. It's just harder to get those things over the finish line. Probably 90% of the bills that were introduced were not passed. They didn't, only 10% made it to be passed. So, it's always a winnowing process, but I think May Flexer, the state senator who runs the GAE committee, she chairs the GAE committee, thought it was very important that both rights, LGBTQ plus reproductive and gender affirming care rights, and women's reproductive rights would be part of the same question. And there were some voices to split the issues, and she thought it was important that both be part of it. So I'd like to see that next year, and I think that's something that you can talk to your legislators about, because I think that's really important.
Thank you.
And I also think another area of advocacy is in the Medicaid arena, because we are in a moment when the president is trying to massively cut Medicaid to about 1 million people in our state. And you can get the number in Norwalk and you will be amazed, because Literally nearly 1 million of our 3.6 million people in the state, children, pregnant women, people with disabilities, veterans, seniors, have Medicaid as their insurance. It's the biggest insurance carrier in our state, biggest insurance program in the state. So the president has proposed significant cuts, and to the extent that women are a big part of that group, or they're part of families. I mean, all of us have friends, neighbors, relatives who are on Medicaid, and I think Medicaid advocacy should be at the top of all of our lists.
Agreed. Thank you.
I raised my own hand, but I wanted to make sure, I mean, as the fellow commissioner, just asking a question. In particular, the Governor's Council on Women and Girls. And I'm wondering how you think we, as one city in this, I've been told that we're one of the few cities that have a commission like this.
Which is fantastic. I was thrilled to hear that. And honestly, I don't know of any others that do, but good for you. And so here's how you can engage with us. So you should contact my general counsel, Tracy Apuku, and my staff person can send you her email. And the commission could be a friend of the council. So you can participate in the meetings. We have quarterly meetings. We usually have very interesting speakers to talk about innovative programs. So for instance, we've had the CEO of our paid leave program. We have had the chair of Million Women Mentors, and the goal of that organization is to get more girls and young women studying and engaged in the science, technology, engineering, and math space. We have reproductive rights groups that are part of it, the YWCA. We have a myriad of organizations, and all of our state government agencies are part of it. So we frequently have guests that talk about what we're doing in Connecticut to combat human trafficking. For example, we had a prosecutor from Hartford talk about that. We also, you should be on the list because we do frequent leadership panels focusing on women in transportation, women in the legal field, women in journalism, women in public service, women in law enforcement, women in firefighting. Those have been incredibly well received. And we also, to your point about legislation, on a yearly basis, will submit to the governor our ideas for any legislation that we think that will help uplift women and girls in Connecticut. The ban on child marriage, the ban on FGMC. It was also examples of pieces of legislation that our council submitted for support.
Thank you. And you probably would not be surprised to know that Representative Dominique Johnson really resurrected, and Sharon, correct me, because I know you were working behind the scenes as well, really resurrected the commission. And we actually went through a name change to be the Commission on the Status of Gender Equity, and from the status of the Commission of Women and Girls. So we are appreciative to her leadership before she left us. Sort of left us. She's certainly still here and was a guest speaker a few meetings ago, but she really did kick us back off.
Great.
And thank you. That's helpful. I think there is some opportunity potentially for the commission to engage with the council. And so I'll sort of take ownership in making sure that we get connected. And I will say that a lot of the industries that you mentioned and that you do leadership panels, I literally was going, yep, she is. So there's a lot of amazing women on this panel, on this as commissioners that might be also able to contribute their leadership.
And it may give you some good ideas for activities.
Absolutely.
And we also work a lot with our Commission on Women, Seniors.
With Melbat, yep.
Yes, with Melvet.
Yeah.
And so we've done a lot of programs together. And so, and we will be celebrating on the 12th of June, Female Veterans Day. And so at our state capitol. So, I think getting women who are veterans or in U.S. military service involved is also a really good thing for you to do as well.
Excellent. Thank you. We'll follow up with your staff folks. Other
Great.
questions from my colleagues? Curiosities, questions? Emma, please go ahead.
Thank you again so much, Lieutenant Governor. I have a question on the constitutional amendment issue.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if you have a position on whether it's better to group the issues together or separate them out as separate issues, and whether you think perhaps it will make one issue more likely to pass if the other issue is grouped with it, or similarly, if the issues are grouped together, is that making it more difficult to get either issue on the ballot?
So I think I could see it either way, and I would support either or both. I think the thought process was having both together, as that's how New York was able to do it. And our equal protection clause lends itself well to having both. So I think it would give us a broader coalition to put both together. That is the thought process. And the thought is there would be a lot of allies lobbying. So, and I think that there were only a few voices out of the several thousand at a marathon public hearing that thought they should be decoupled.
Thank you. Want to make sure we have some additional room and space for more questions. Shannon?
Good evening, Lieutenant Governor. I just wanted to say thank you. We were there for Norwalk Day a couple weeks ago, and we popped in your office with Senator Duff. Unfortunately, we missed you, but we really appreciate you giving us the chance to highlight Norwalk and all that's going on. A lot of us
walk around a little bit, and I have my little rubber ducky. Sorry, I missed you.
Yeah, we appreciate you giving us a chance to highlight all that we're doing, and a lot of us wear a lot of hats, so it's nice to hear all this. And I just wanted to thank you for your work, because really it's such an honor to be a Connecticut resident and know that women's rights are protected. As you know, a woman myself raising a young daughter, it's definitely scary out there, but thank you for the work that you're doing.
Oh, good for you. God bless.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for having me, and please do connect and be part of our Council on Women and Girls. We would love to have you as part of it. Thank you so much for being a role model for what other towns and cities should be doing.
Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you.
Thank
Take
you.
care. Bye.
Bye. All right. Thank you, everybody. And Emma, thank you. I think we really, and actually listening to her speak, I will follow up with you, Michelle, but I think I'd like to do a little summary of the speakers that we've had, whether put it on social media. I'll figure out a way to do that, but I really want to commend and appreciate Emma, Sharon, and Shannon for bringing us all of the speakers that we've had. And it may feel a little bit slow to get traction, but I feel like we're gonna. Sharon's going, yeah, a little slow. I know. I'm a doer as well, and it's been a challenge, but I think we're really poised now to know things to ask for as next year's legislative session comes up. I think we are poised to how to get involved with additional opportunities throughout the state and where our voice and the representation of the city of Norwalk can come to uh, full advocacy. So I appreciate that and the work that you all put in getting those speakers here. So.
And Yvonne too. I just wanted to make
Oh,
sure.
what did I
that
not say?
you
I'm
were-
sorry. I was doing all three of you. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Thank you to all three of you, amazing women. I'm just trying to find my agenda. Sorry. Okay. Public Kim, we already welcomed you, but you're on the agenda. And Kim, thank you. She and I had a chance to chat pretty quickly right before the meeting, and I believe we also sent around your resume as well, so folks have the background. But what I realize is you don't have our resumes and our background, so I will find the old email with that. And of course, there's always LinkedIn, but just to be safe, I will go ahead and send you that. So they are a little bit dated, but you'll get a sense of what all of our respective backgrounds are.
Great, thank you.
Of course.
Welcome, Kim.
All right.
Thank you.
So we do have just as standing a legislative advocacy committee update, followed by an outreach committee update, and then new business followed by old business. So do you all have an update at this point, or was that our update?
Sure. By way of brief update, we're sort of in the process of finalizing our legislative priorities right now. We were waiting to hear our discussion with the lieutenant governor, and following this meeting, we will have our standing committee meeting. And so we'll meet, and when we meet as a committee tonight, we'll need to sort of go through the legislation to see what was passed and made it through the House and or the Senate, and then go from there. And then our hope would be by the next meeting to have a short list of legislative priorities for the commission to vote on.
Great. Thank you. It's wonderful to hear. Thank you very much. Anything to add, Sharon or Yvonne? Joy, did you raise your hand or were you just coming off mute?
I
Oop, there
I
she-
didn't want to speak out of turn.
Quite okay.
I did have a meeting with Will Schwartzstein from Norwalk Rec and Parks.
Yep.
And he said that he was really happy with all the girls' programs that are going on. And he said he's very receptive to any, not just the coaches, but any of the participants and their parents as to make it for better enrollment. And he said if there's any other sports he'd like to introduce to girls, to please let him know. And I would be happy to be the conduit of information for him.
Great.
We just finished 24 weeks of girls volleyball, and our enrollment was at the highest, 120 girls.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So yeah, a lot of it has to do with the support from the new leader from Rec and Parks, Will Schwartzstein. So it's very helpful.
Joy, would you be able to, and this is really to Sharon's point, in correcting in the minutes from the last meeting, would you be able to ask him for data around the enrollment and in what sports and such? I believe that's what we're also hoping to get, just so that to some degree, then there's a marker, right? So if we do get engaged and we are promoting and helping to support, if a year down the line, there's a promotion, an increase, not saying that it would be our responsibility or our doing, but it would be nice to see the progression of that. So, and I'm not sure if data exists prior to his leadership, but if it does, just sort of that comparison, that might be very interesting. So I don't know if you could pursue that with him, that might be great.
I did ask him.
Okay, great.
And he said he was waiting for all the programs to end for this session to start formulating those numbers, because I think girls basketball is still kind of new. Is that correct?
Well,
Just girls basketball, not co-ed, just girls basketball is somewhat new. No?
not really. It may have ebbed and tide over the years, just
Okay.
from my own experience, I think, which is normal and that happens, but we want to go on the ebb, right? Is that the upward swing?
So he said he would come up with those numbers. I had asked him about a month and a half ago.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So I will follow up on that.
Great, thank you.
Mhm.
And actually, Joy, that was totally on time because I think we were done with the Legislative Advocacy Committee and sort of the Outreach Committee. That was definitely one aspect of it that we've pursued. We did, so Yvonne, Shannon, and I did have a quick conversation, and we have asked, and we'll follow up with Michelle just to get a clearer, to the best that we can, understanding of what the parameters, if any, are of our ability to engage and advocate. And Yvonne, make sure I'm saying this correctly, please. But we want to make sure that we are doing our due diligence to operate within the role and the scope of the commission as a city entity. But then also make sure we're staying true to our mission and our goals as a commission. So we're just trying to get some additional clarity on that so that we can put some action steps in place, whether it's a legislative action advocacy committee and or social outreach. I also, Kim, can I tell them what you said to me privately on our call? I think you gave me the impression that that was
Yes.
okay to share.
Yeah.
I asked you privately and then shared. But Kim does have a strong media background and may be able to help us with some of our social media outreach. I think the key there is to have content that we want to promote on social media. And I think that's really where we need to get to. So as of right now, the only other outstanding issue for the outreach committee, and I think I said I'd take responsibility for this, is drafting a calendar for wanting to do the award ceremony next year. So if we can get that calendar locked in now, then we can then we know what our lead time is to do the promotion, the committee work, the promotion, the assessment of applicants, and the honoring of awardees. So we can get that on the books. I feel like there was something else I was going to mention and I don't remember. Anything else from the outreach committee? I think the only other piece, and I apologize if I'm repeating myself, I did reach out to Brian Candela of Corporation Counsel quite a while ago about engaging with other entities and organizations. He did not see any potential conflict. He said, if I think that there might be a conflict, to run it by him, the specific partnership. But in general, if we wanted to partner with any other organizations that we feel are in sync with our mission, that we could indeed pursue those partnerships and coordinate activities or coordinate events. So was anybody able to get to the Pride flag raising? It's middle of the day is tough for me. No? Okay. All right. So if there's any evening events, Michelle, we'll be there. I know there's not always, but we appreciate you keeping us in the loop. Shannon?
I have kind of a dual, I have a outreach committee proposition slash new business. I know we're working on finding our footing and what we can do, and we were finding that some of the bigger events maybe were a little bit more of a lift than we could manage. That all being said, I was invited to Ponus Ridge STEAM Academy last week to be a judge for their STEAM Day. So the students all worked together to do a proposal on, it was all on water conservation and like cleaning the water. The group we had were all focused on that. As I was watching the presentations, it was such an interesting slap in the face that the girls were getting up and turning their backs and wouldn't even look at the room and speak. And when the boys got up, one of the young men said, "I didn't do anything. I don't even know why I'm here, but I'm here and I'm going to tell you about our project." And it was just so, and every female group stood there in a huddle and turned inward. And I'm like, how can we help? I know that, Norwalk has the big mentor program. Can we, pare it down and hone it in into like, each of us do, I'm not talking extensive. I know we all are very busy, but an hour a month, even something like that, just for these young girls to see women in the community and what we do and how we've gotten to where we are. It was just really, it's been a week and I can't tell you how many times I've thought about it over and over again that they were so shy and just didn't have that feeling that they belong there presenting in front of the classroom. So just something to think about as we start to look for priorities. Maybe it's something that we can tackle.
Right. Agreed. Thank you, Shannon. I absolutely agree and understand. it's a challenging situation when I'm teaching public speaking and I see differences sometimes that by the end of the class, it's not the same, luckily. But
Yeah,
thank
it
you,
just
Jen.
was so I
Yeah.
don't know, especially with girls that young. I'm like, they're 11
Mm.
years old.
Right.
You deserve to shine too. And they
Right.
all turned their backs. They did not want to be up there.
Yeah.
It wasn't a shyness thing. They just lack of it was very
Confidence.
disheartening.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Sharon, and then Sharon, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, that's really interesting, and it's also kind of up in my wheelhouse. I work with college students on career development, but I'm just thinking, I'm gonna take this back with me and think about it a little bit more. But off the top of my head, I'm thinking, can we partner with a nonprofit that maybe is already working with kids and then like go in and help them on our spare time, like in like a day of
Yeah.
this. So I don't know, I know of one nonprofit, but there's no like, well, so anyways, there's a couple nonprofits, but if you guys can think of any, maybe we reach out to them and see if they can put together a program and then we jump in on it.
Right.
And help to get the word out or something.
I think that is a good
Yeah, I
example
can-
of a partnership. Even maybe the Fun for Women and Girls and some of their smaller scale programming. Oh, did we lose Sharon? No. Somebody moved. Did we lose somebody on the call? Because the squares all moved.
I was gonna say Norwalk Acts, but I
Michelle.
think we know somebody who's involved over there, Christina, right? You know
Yes.
somebody that's like on the board or something?
Yes, yes. I'm going to use the sentence Sharon just said. It was, I'm going to take this back and think about it because I do think that there's something to be said. And I think, again, we don't always have to be the doers, but we can be the facilitators. And I
Yeah,
think that's an
100%.
important role that the commission can play. So, and that kind of leads us into new business. And just as a matter of order, I'm not sure. Traditionally, I think old business comes before new business, but I didn't catch that on the agenda, but that's fine. So that would be new business. Is there anything else under new business? Sharon?
Sorry, lots to say today. I just wanted to recognize Pride Month. I wanted to also mention to anyone listening, TCC's Pride in the Park is on June 14th. That's this Saturday at Veterans Park from 2 to 8 p.m. It's a free event. It's kid-friendly. Newark Public Schools has a booth there for students, but it's really for everyone to come on out, allies, and the community itself. And it's a wonderful day. Happy Pride.
And unfortunately, I know we had a table in past Pride events, but I'm not thinking we have a table this year. Well, it's this Friday, it's this Saturday. So no, we do not have a table. But again, I think in the way of a calendar of activities, the outreach committee can kind of look at that. And so I think that's something we need to take back and be very intentional. That's the word I'm missing. Very intentional with what we choose to engage with. So I think that's important. Under, I don't know if it's new or old business, but I wanted to double check the temperature of the room because I cannot remember. Do we have a July meeting or do we go right to August? We have 10 meetings a year, but I cannot remember and could not find the bylaws.
My name is. We skip August.
Yeah, we
I'm
skip
sorry?
August,
We skip
December.
August, so we have July. Would
Yep.
individuals be open to an in-person July meeting? So that would be July. Sorry, let me try to find the calendar quick enough. So it'd be July 14th, Monday, July 14th. Okay. I'm not seeing anybody opposed to meeting July 14th. Okay. All right, great. So we'll meet July 14th in person. I will work with Michelle to identify where. I'm assuming that would be in City Hall, but I need to know how to confirm that. And then we will meet then. Okay. Any other old business?
I have the send a request with the hygienic products for women in public buildings.
Yes, you did. Thank you. Thank you. Go ahead, Yvonne.
Yes. So Rob Cosenda, who helps running the youth leadership group at Brian McMahon High School, he had approached our commission a long time ago regarding the possibility. The kids wanted to have a campaign so that the public buildings in our town made available hygienic products for women, menstrual products. So we kind of got stuck there because we couldn't find the vendor who does the sales for the schools here, and so we didn't have pricing in order to produce a budget that we could try to get through. So he has asked us if we would be interested again on taking on that project again. And so I just wanted to bring it to the commission and see if we could go back and start looking to see what would it look like to have menstrual products in buildings like City Hall, libraries, community centers, museums, buildings in the park, beaches, and so on. There's a couple of ways to go about it. For example, the Ferguson Library in Stanford has little baggies for people, and they have signs, and they say in the bathrooms. So they say, if you need bag, come over to the front desk and we'll give you one. Or there could be like vending machines that also have these products. So there's a couple of ways to go about it, and he was wondering if the commission would like to take on this project.
Sharon?
Yeah, hi, I'm just thinking through this. Is this something that we should be working with the mayor on and common council to do? Like, not us, they should have the resources to be able to do what you're doing, right? If anybody wants to, that's what I'm thinking. It seems like a big project for us, but something that we could advocate for.
Also, I think that's what he meant, that we as a commission advocate for the town of Norwalk to get this through.
Okay.
The point is that when we were doing it before, we wanted to get some numbers in the budget, like how much would it cost for the town to implement this, and that's where we got stuck.
And the city's not giving you the public schools NPS.
No, not even the public school has the numbers. They have like a vendor, the public schools, that provides them with these supplies, and the people I connected with in the public schools did not have the information, but because I think they do it through the health department, so it was a little bit convoluted. So, but we can kind of like take on where we left.
Yeah, I think to Sharon's point, I think maybe there's some more information we need to understand what our role would before we would determine what our role is. And I also, I know there was the menstrual equity legislation laws. Forgive me, I'm drawing a blank on the correct wording. And I know that we had gotten involved in that conversation. So I'd be willing to simply go back through our minutes and try to, and maybe Evan, you could help me, or that's what we were looking for, correct?
But
just to kind of get an assessment of what we did do and kind of what the status is of the menstrual equity regulations. Is it regulations? Is that the right word?
The law.
The law. Thank you. Legislation. So I think part of it could be our asking for a response from the city on the status of the current that legislation and the status of the current implementation of it. Did I get that right?
Yeah, the problem with these laws is sometimes they get passed, but there is no funding for them.
Correct, unfunded mandates, right. And we, of course, are not in a position to fund, nor are we as a commission in a position to require or tell folks what to do, but we do have the obligation to advance the voice for the issues that are of importance. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. Okay. All right, so I will gather some information. I may tap you, Yvonne, between now and then for the next meeting. And again, maybe that's something that we can take into consideration under a priority. So, okay. And I also want to acknowledge that we did do some work last year to identify priorities. And then I think there has been a shift in just our greater world, and just the priorities, I think, in general have shifted and or need to be reevaluated to help inform our best choice of making our best possible way to make an impact and serve our mission. So I think that that's a fair assessment, that we do need to reassess our priorities and identify where we are at this current state and time. Okay. Any other business? Seeing none, is there a motion to adjourn? Motion by Joy, seconded by Emma. And we are adjourning the meeting at 7:52 p.m. Okay. Thank you. Michelle, could you stop the recording? Or do we just leave? I forget.